Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sweet Talks. I'm your host Pulse, and today we have with us Gino. Gino is here representing DeFiAnts. Hi Gino, how's it going?
How are you?
We're having
Good.
some technical difficulties, so if you see Gino glitching out a bit or some green teeth, don't mind that. Don't pay any attention. That's just his normal teeth. Thank you for being here, Gino, first and foremost, and taking the time. Before we kind of get into DeFiAnts and your whole organization and the company, maybe you can give us a small intro of you and your past and what you do exactly.
Yeah. So I was in the past, before crypto, busy with permaculture and city farming, and I had an interest in sustainable development. But I liked finance, and that was like one of the main motivations. Like, okay, where can I see to multiply some money? And crypto seemed feasible as well because it was also peer-to-peer, so it really aligned with that kind of vision to go there. And then things changed really quickly, and I rolled just really deeply into the rabbit hole of crypto.
What year was this?
Excuse me?
What year was this?
This was 2017, August.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just finishing a project that no, it doesn't work for me. And I was also interested in working from laptops. So like everything was just pointing to crypto, I already had a bit of background in web design, and I had done a semester of marketing. So I had some things with me already to understand the world of the developer and of marketing, which is really big in the crypto. Like every startup really depends on big ass marketing, in what way, it doesn't matter in what way. Yeah, that's where it started.
So what interested you in the crypto scene when you first saw it? What opportunities did you see?
I saw it was an emerging technology, and I saw that we were merging into the fourth industrial revolution in conjunction with AI, Internet of Things, smart cities, and I saw it as like this is necessary to protect the data for data kind of streaming, and that's what I see, and otherwise I was just being an investor, I felt also because I already had experience with angel investors, because I have previous startup experience in the permaculture thing. So I approached as like that as well. So I'm the angel investor, and I use my money, and I'll give whatever resource I have to support that investment. That was my approach.
Right.
And it was appreciated, and that's how I turned easily into a moderator, helping in the channels. So that's where it started. It was in that context I met Vlad, which is one of the founders of RareCandy.
RareCandy, yeah, of course. So how was that relationship, with Vlad? How did that help you, or because I guess you guys were both in the scene starting at the same time, right? Like you were both newbies at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you just come already with some technical or background, and it feels like you're talking with somebody experienced. That was like he was already writing for some news outlets, so like I guess we had a good background. We did our homework to get ready for this. That's what I felt. Yeah. And yeah, he was writing about IoT, of course. I never had a tech background, I just had system thinking is very parallel. Like how I was doing permaculture, you think about systems, and it sometimes looks alike, like they call it, to apply nature into technology, right? So yeah, that's what it is. You find the systems back into computer language as well,
Interesting. So how did you move from that point on from like getting into cryptos? Did you dive into NFTs, or how did like this whole, DeFiAnts thing come about?
So my approach was like, one thing is like, what is for me feasible technologically, and which has a good community. So this is how I choose. And I navigated myself into the crypto. I never held more than 3 coins, so I didn't did much into diversification of portfolio, simply because I was 12 hours available. I had a shit ton of time to spend into it, like, because I had a slow income and didn't have to care of anything else but my education into this space. So that was really, really amazing gift, actually.
Hmm. Nice. So how did you move into, like, at which point did you see something, or did you see like a niche, that wasn't being met, or you saw a gap in the market? Like, what did you see? Because I still want to understand exactly what DeFiAnts do. I know we're having like a partnership and we can discuss that in a little bit, but I want to know the core idea of DeFiAnts. Like, what was that, and where did that come from?
Yeah, exactly. Well, so my approach brought me to a project called IoT Chain, which was actually the Chinese IOTA. So I started in IOTA community. I held a lot of IOTA, and then I migrated to something else after the flash crash. I lost IOTA, like I think a lot of people lost. Value in the coin they were holding. So I was, and that's where I ended also with the same kind of mentality. And that's where we started to get recognized by agencies that provide services that we are doing now today with DeFiAnts. And that was simply because you are a bag holder and you invest your time in your investment. You provide your knowledge about marketing, which Chinese people are not so good at. So that was our USP. That was our first USP. It's like, we can speak Western language and we help you proofread your copywriting, all that stuff.
So what services does DeFiAnts provide?
We mostly focus on moderating the chats and hosting discussion to make sure that people can express themselves in a clean environment, in a safe environment. Yeah.
Right.
That is the main focus, or bread and butter.
And where do these discussions happen?
In mostly Telegram. But we also, since the last 2 years, started to migrate into Discord and Reddit. Those are the main fields we focus on.
And do you do that for other companies, or do you do that with your brand? Like, do you have discussions, as DeFiAnts, or does DeFiAnts take charge of, Twitters and Discords of other companies, and you do that discussion through their brands?
Yeah, exactly. We make ourselves available as waiters for a restaurant, yeah. And every client is for us a new table that we deal separately with, it's every time a different client. And then, yeah.
Okay.
So with all the, I use a lot the analogy of catering and running a restaurant, because it's a lot like that. You just provide the logistics to set up a thing, yeah.
Okay. So how long has it been since the foundation, the inception of DeFiAnts? Like, when did it start?
We started in 2018, just 6 months after I was into the space. That's why we got seen, we got recognized, we closed the deal, and we started to get our first projects to help into. We were not a brand yet, we were just outsourcing team,
Right.
working for that. And we managed to do that until 2019, and just after that major capitulation from 6 to 3K, that's where we had to close our office. And then we started again, rebranded with our experience. Most of us maintained their jobs. They were still proofreading, copywriting. I was still volunteering as a mod in Holochain. And then we picked up again in 2020 because one client wanted to work with us because they seen the work we were doing in Holochain still. So yeah, that's sort of like how we kept a lifeline, because it's so important you remain present in your space, so.
Of course.
Because we still believe that the bull run will come back, and in 2020 we went. It took another 6 months. So we launched again in August 2020, exactly 3 years after I entered the market. It took another 6 months until we actually really were able to scale up. We had a few opportunities to reach us into clients. We didn't need branding. We could do it just with our network. And that's when we met Vlad again, who was in contact with Outlier Ventures. Yeah, that was really stunning, actually. We really grew really fast after that encounter.
Tell us a little bit about that. How did that merger happen? What actually happened? For the people that don't know, what happened with this organization and how did it help you?
The Outlier Ventures are also a bunch of visionaries that want to build the Web3. They're an accelerator, and they bring everybody together that through their boot camp to make them qualify into what will become the Web3. And a large part of that Web3 is going to become metaverse. So a lot of Web3 startups are leaning into the metaverse for some reason. I'm not such a good visionary about metaverse because I have more interest in real life, so for me it's not always that easy to delve into that. But I see some benefits with metaverse technology, especially for e-commerce, Yeah.
So what was the partnership like between Outlier Ventures? Like what did that mean for you? How were you building together? What was the link there?
You mean what was the chemistry or?
No, I mean like this is the first I've heard of you guys partnering with Outlier Ventures. So I'm trying to understand the context. Like, did you partner up and you offloaded some of your work to them, or did they do that for you? You found partners together. Like, how do you work together?
They were actually the funnel. They were the funnel. They're like, there's a car driving by, excuse me.
It's okay. I can't hear anything from my side.
It's making a lot of noise. It's a dirt road, so it's like, all right. Yeah, let's get back to the question. Outlier Ventures. They are a production house of Web3 startups, basically. Like they accelerate them. They get them into the network of all the providers. People they can trust, and we are one of their services they recommend to their clients.
Right. Okay.
And vice versa, we are able to take part in some of the better, more qualified startups that are entering this market, because they go through a boot camp, and we always get to know how they performed, so we get to know, like, okay, that's really nice, like it's different than if clients just step to you and you don't have any vouching or you don't know their background, So that was like for us a really valuable win-win situation or relationship to build on. because we had a steady stream of clients suddenly, and we could work with Outlier Venture as some sort of host of a consortium, like a consortium for Web3.
Right, and I
where we
guess
exchange all our resources, and that, it feels a bit of like a cooperative kind of organization, then, isn't it?
right. So I guess that was a massive help for you guys, especially in the beginning, as you were first coming into the scene, to have that kind of reference point. I'm not even sure, like, how many people are part of DeFiAnts, like how many people are on the team?
It's me and my partner Isaac that met each other in back in 2018 when we started with IOTA chain. So and from there we grew to 3-4 extra people, which we done for a long time. And today we have grown up to 20 people. So we go from 5 to 20 in almost 2 years.
Nice. That's pretty significant for, the space, the amount of time you've been in the space.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about your future aspirations. So now that we know, what DeFiAnts is and what you do and who you kind of partner with, unless there's something else you want to talk about in terms of partnerships or how you kind of do the work that you do, I'd like to get into about future aspirations and future goals for the company.
Yeah, sure. Shoot.
So you tell me, like, what are the plans for DeFiAnts, for example, for the next 5 years? Like, what are your goals?
We have different scenarios that we are exploring. The DAO is an interesting part, but it needs first of all attention to build, which we don't have due to our clients that are keeping for asking for attention. But also because is there an actual necessity? Is it easy to decentralize a platform where rapid decision making is required? I think DAOs apply now today mostly for slow decision making. So the DAO we put a bit of aside now. So now mostly we are exploring how we can grow more into community building itself, which is it goes more into understanding the needs of the people that want to be part or that the client is seeking for to attract. And that kind of experience just became more significant after working with more than a dozen of clients. So we've seen quite well what works and doesn't work. So on that we can build pretty well,
So from your experience, from the clients you've had, I'd like to touch a little bit upon that point you just said. Like, what are the things you've seen that clients are perhaps in this space good at, and what are they not good at? Like, what are they lacking in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the most difficult thing is being honest with what you are providing and taking enough preparation to launch. And I've seen enough people just launching with an idea and it might be their first experience, but not. Yeah, I find it lacking a bit of accountability, sometimes.
So do you mean in terms of like?
There's a lot of gray zone where you can get away with things, because there's not even any regulation, so.
Exactly. Right. So I guess, do you mean like in terms of companies coming into the space that don't really know anything about the space, but not being truthful about that and trying to kind of, make the most out of something, but not without being honest about what they're trying to do?
Yeah. Either they like the right consultancy. I mean, they might excel in something, good branding, good idea, you know, like, but completely fail on some other parts, you know, like there's no regulation about the ethics of dealing with the community. There isn't. So there are no rights for token holders, you know, like, so you can do whatever you want, and that's where we see people take their freedom, you know.
Right.
So
I think
only the moment that there is like a really obvious rug pull, that's only the moment when regulation steps in, you know, like, otherwise you can do what you want.
Yeah, and I think talking about regulations is like a double-edged sword, right? Because on one hand, I believe that, you know, one of the main reasons a lot of us got into the scene was because of that, right? Because there's no rules, there's no regulations, and it gives us the opportunity and the freedom to do a lot of the things that we always wanted to do, in terms of decentralization, taking power away from big conglomerates and organizations. But also at the same time, it's what you said, right? So if we don't have any rules and regulations at all, it also means that for us, we don't have any rights. And, you know, not a lot of people talk about that. And I think it's great that you're bringing it up. I don't know how we can find like a balance, right? I don't know if you have any ideas or what specific organizations would take care of this. I'm not like a lawmaker. I'm not into legislations, you know. I'm not very much into politics either. So I don't really know who could help with something like that, especially in a field which is, you know, still very young, because we have even people coming into our organization asking us questions about how things should be done, just because we have a little bit more experience than they might have. So in your eyes, what do you think would be a good balance to figure that out?
There is a lobby group, and there is an organization which is in contact with the lobby group in Europe. We already had a GDPR law evolving, right? So that can also be certainly used. It's certainly something that comes into this mix, you know, like. But you also have the need to discuss with the lawmakers, with the policymakers of Europe, because that's where the law around all of this is being brewed, at least for us in Europe.
Then that's, for me,
so
that's
it's not just the SECs that are determining the laws.
But isn't that a problem? Like, for me, hearing that perhaps shows me that we're going to go back to the same thing we're already doing. Like, if we're going to go to lawmakers and people who make legislations that are currently doing it from a centralized system, and these are the things that we don't like, then how does that make sense? Like, if we're going to these organizations to make the rules for a decentralized system, a Web3 system, then are we not just going to make it into the same system we already have?
The internet is a bit disruptive at the moment. Are you still okay for recording?
Yeah, you're still here for me. Did you hear the question I had?
Yeah, I hear. Can you repeat the last part?
Sure. In short, my worry is that if we're going to go to people from a centralized system, which are, you know, already making these rules and regulations that we don't enjoy, that we don't like, asking these people to make the rules and regulations for a decentralized system, which is Web3, right? For me, it worries me that we're going to make the same mistakes and we're going to do the same things again. That's why I'm saying, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think there can be a better balance?
It's gonna depend on jurisdictions. There are places that are gonna be that. There's always gonna be a space where you can feel free in the internet as well. It's gonna be variable enough, but we're gonna see the extremes. One other aspect is like some freedoms, like trustlessness, is in the architecture of the blockchain itself. So a lot of laws, I mean, a lot of laws that host freedom, that what we're seeking for, doesn't need to be regulated anymore. But you're gonna still need to have some regulation on e-commerce, Web3, I think, right? So there's gonna be terrains where you're gonna need something where the client is protected as well, you know, like, so I think mostly on data protection and client protection, that's where I see that there will, I mean, there's now a lobby group that is pushing against to also protect the rights of the investor, mostly around having your personal wallets and how you need to communicate that data, you know, like. And then we have another stream which is around zero knowledge proof, I think, that also is embedded in the architecture to protect the data while breaching into the regulatory landscape of Europe, you know. So there's a lot of like, Alliance Block is such a good example because they're building that bridge. They know like regulations are gonna come, but how are you gonna protect our sovereignty, this self-sovereign identity? Which is another big thing. Like, this is the identity layer. There's a lot of progression from the DeFi world itself that are offering solutions to these lawmakers that I didn't see mixed yet into this bigger discussion around. There was a law in Europe around exposing more of the data of transactions that are happening with people, just to protect money laundering, right? So suddenly there was this very strict law that came against to endanger that sovereignty that we were building. But I think it's gonna be like this a bit for a while, you know, like they were not able to apply the law yet either. And it can also still change. Would it become illegal at some point? I mean, I guess it will. There's some parts that are now that will become illegal.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe the use of privacy tokens will become illegal. You know, that kind of stuff. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what worries me, is that like it's interesting to pay attention to this relationship, you know, of the system of like centralized versus decentralized, and kind of like the rules and regulations that are going on. Because in my head, that's what I'm saying. How do we protect the users without giving again power to a centralized system, or turning decentralized systems into centralized systems? Because I don't want to get into specifics, but a lot of Web3 companies in the recent months, I'm sure you've seen, have made certain moves which, to be honest, made me nervous to be in this space, because I was thinking, surely these things should not be happening. You know, if we're talking about a decentralized system and we're talking about freedom, how can certain people from certain countries, or if you have a certain blood, right, you're not allowed to use a certain service? And that's why I'm saying certain things can be taken too far, and it might start with, you know, trying to help, but then I think any system, whether that's, you know, any organized system, whether it's decentralized or centralized, as soon as it gets some kind of power, it's very easy to corrupt that system, and very easy to grab onto that power and to become centralized, whether you are or not. And I just think it's interesting to bring that point up. You know, I'm not saying we have an answer or anything, but I just think it's interesting to pay attention to that.
Yeah. I think there's gonna be, it's hard to tell in how much they can censor internet transmission or data, you know, like it's hard where they have all the control. I'm not an expert in that, you know, like, but given there isn't, I think there will exist some parallel kind of stuff, like some people are still using Pirate Bay, you know, like they have their own strategy of maintaining the freedom of access to free torrents, you know, free data, you know, like, but it's illegal.
Right. Yeah. I think
piracy. And
that's a good point you're making.
I see that kind of evolution happening again with crypto, you know, like, so
Yeah. I think you're right.
That kind of scenario.
I think you're right. It also has to do with user experience, right? Because I myself wasn't into cryptos, you know, like 3, 4, 5 years ago. When I got into them, these kind of systems like Binance was already existing. So it was already pretty easy for me to get in and invest and trade and whatever. But I have friends who were in this from the very beginning who've literally told me just to do this one simple thing you're doing on Binance, I had to do like 15 other things, like to go from this place to that place to that place. So when I'm talking about a user experience, what I mean is as it becomes easier, you're going to have certain options, right? So if you want to be completely decentralized, and I think that's what you're protruding to as well, I think that's what you were trying to say, that the easier it gets, you're probably going to be able to become less centralized, right? And if you want to stay completely decentralized and have pure autonomy and freedom, you're probably going to have to do a lot more things yourself, right? So you're either going to have to do this thing that takes one, you're probably going to have to do 5 to 10 different steps just to stay this way, right? And in my opinion, that's probably what governments will do in terms of cryptocurrencies. They're probably going to make their own digital currency, but provide a lot more customer experience, you know, user experience, customer service.
It's like you want to trade your freedom for more security, more UI UX,
Right.
still in this code of zero proof knowledge. Like, yeah, your data is protected. Only when you are targeted as a terrorist, we will have access to it, or something like that. You know?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's where it basically comes to, you know, like, because you still need the access. It's the same as like with this encryption paradox of WhatsApp, you know. So, but that's what it's going to be. And but the internet will remain hackable. I think it will remain hackable. We will remain abilities to make our free economy. That's what we want, you know, like, or some of us want. I understand that we can't, that we need some safe space as well. I think my mother or family or friends that are not so much involved into internet hacking and that kind of stuff, they need service, you know, like, and I don't think we can abandon the establishments. It's almost unnegotiable, you know, like non-negotiable. Yeah, it's frustrating, but it's also like, let's just see things for what they are and take advantage from what is given, you know, like, be thankful for what we have, you know, like.
Of course.
Otherwise we're gonna get depressed, you know, like. So I don't want to be a pessimist thinker, because there's a lot of doom scenarios as well, you know, like, there's a lot of talks about WEF that has their control into the space, and like, but I rather look for middle ground, you know, something that is already existing and that will just continue. I think those who are libertarian, I think they will still have a space where they feel comfortable, you know,
right,
for the future.
I mean, if you want to get into theories, right, there's many theories out, and you can theorize about anything, and you can look at it in a pessimistic way or in an optimistic way. Like even the creator of Bitcoin, right? It's very like opaque, to say the least. Like there's many theories about who that could be, and I don't want to get into these theories. I don't want to like feed into this idea. But what I'm saying is, you can look at it positive if you want to. You can look at it negative if you want to. There's many opportunities in this space, and you know, personally, I wouldn't be here if I didn't see any sort of benefit. I see more benefit than the negatives and disadvantages, but I'm also very aware that there could be, you know, certain things that are worrying. But moving forward, but keeping this in mind, did any of this play any role in DeFiAnts? Like, have there been any regulations or rules that have changed over time that perhaps made your job easier or harder?
I think European the European law evolution, that's something that I keep in eye, otherwise we're all working as freelancers, so we are all take responsibility for the taxes and the regulations in our own country, so that really it varies from person to person in our organization, right?
Right.
So for me, Belgium, it's less strict, but in Holland you have to record every transaction, yeah. So it really depends on the country. Still,
Okay.
but it will become more like we're still in grace. Soon it will become more concrete. Like they're on the table. The European laws are on the table. They're not executed yet, but it will come, and then it will suddenly have a bigger impact also probably on Belgium. So it's important. Like I like what Estonia was doing for business. Like example, you earn crypto as your income. How do you pay tax for that? So in Belgium there's no lawsuit for that yet. In Estonia there is. So those kind of lawsuits that will come. Like where you can work and be paid in crypto. It's happening, but there's no law anywhere yet. So that's the kind of law that I'm looking for that has impact on me at the moment. There is, of course, a law of freedom and freedom of speech, and we see the same thing happening with YouTube and other things that they were trying to take away the freedom of producing information, or creative information as well, Did it went through? I don't know. I didn't see much change, there. So I think there is more fear coming to us than there is actually gonna come. I think the freedom as we feel now is gonna slowly change, but I think it's not going to be noticeable. It's not like suddenly like we end up in a feeling of a prison or something. I don't think that will happen. It can.
I think, to be honest, I think that depends. It's on the individual level because, like you said, there's no real threat, right? In terms of this space, like I'm not talking about wars going on and all this sort of thing, like which are physically happening. I'm saying there's no real threat yet, at least, in this kind of like digital freedom. But I think, how you take that fear on is completely up to the person. So, for example, you and I might feel free, right? And we might feel free to talk about whatever we want, to roam around the internet and do anything that we want to do, consume it in any way that we want to. But I believe that there's going to be certain people who take that fear and put themselves into prison, because I've seen it happen with other things in the past 3 years. There might be an inkling of a rule or a new regulation without it actually coming out, but just that thought puts people into that fear state, and they will do it themselves without a rule, without a regulation, without any law specifically telling them you have to do this or you don't have to do that. So, and it's a step after that is policing each other, because once you've put yourself into that state of fear and you've put yourself into prison, you're policing your peer and your neighbor and whoever is next to you to do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's COVID was a good example to see that in action, that kind of psychology. And of course that will continue. Like that's true. That's what will continue.
Yeah.
That kind of shaping of people's narrative of vision of world, they will influence that. But otherwise, I don't see too much of a danger. We are emerging, and something that I wanted to share that I didn't share in our prospects of growing with DeFiAnts. As I said, my vision was to go into the space to create a financial instrument so it can support sustainable development. We started to support the project in Africa, in a refugee settlement, actually the third biggest refugee settlement and the oldest in the world, which is called Nakivale. It's 100,000 people there, and crypto is very useful there. And I've been there for a month, which is an extraordinary experience. But at the same time, also very stunned about their speed of keeping up with this evolution, and their speed of adoption of such a cutting-edge technology, you know, in actually a space, an environment that is actually quite behind on a lot of other things.
Right.
You know, like there's a lot of opportunity there, you know, like it's really interesting. It's also very exciting, of course, to do permaculture with these people, because permaculture is a different word for sustainable agriculture. And at the same time, going into conjunction with the use of blockchain technology to create mesh network for a better internet, cheaper internet, you know, like. So those opportunities are there, you know, like, and that cheaper internet will help to sustain using banking technology without using a bank, you know, like the peer-to-peer. That's a bank, the unbanked, and so that's the complete kind of story that crypto is playing in those regions. A refugee doesn't have the right to a bank, you know, like, so, and that really is necessary to create an economy locally, so people can safely exchange their value, you know, like, because they don't have a safe, they don't have a bank, you know, like, so you need something safer, you know, like, you need a fingerprint or whatever, like, something that secures people to thrive, to learn, and to manage their economy, and then that will be already a big kind of buffer against what is happening with climate change, that can cause, of course, a lot of catastrophe in these countries, right? And what we've seen also, like with COVID, what we've seen with the war, geopolitics that suddenly tripled the food prices. That is where I see the adoption of blockchain merging, and we see it also in Ukraine, and we've seen it there as well. So, like, and that actually that evolution that happened in Ukraine, that's like, poof, it woke up Europe. It's like, okay, we need to be really fast, because this thing is actually really happening, you know, like, people really jump to that, you know, like, so, and I think they just push the brake really fast, but without thinking, you know, like, because they don't have the time to go into consensus with what is what, you know, like, you have to be fast, and so you do the preventive. So I understand the reaction of Europe as well. So I think we will find some sort of middle ground.
You know what? I love the fact that you're bringing up this real life examples of how Web3 blockchain technology can really help real physical infrastructures and real physical people, right? Because I think there's a lot of people who are either, you know, not aware of the scene, who perhaps don't know much about Web3 and what it can do. Even some early adopters I've seen have this mindset that, well, and you know, Web3 are purely NFTs, and NFTs are only pictures of cats, which even NFTs are something completely different, which is a smart contract. But like, for example, I'm now putting together a project because I have a friend who is in Ukraine, who's actually an artist who has released with RareCandy, and unfortunately, he's been severely affected by the war. He had to flee his house, his neighborhood, everything got bombed. Like, he hasn't, you know, he lost all his equipment, all his stuff. He's literally just like trying to find refuge. And I'm putting together this project with some creative friends of mine. There's going to be 4 or 5 of us. We're going to create this project like a audio-visual NFT, and we're going to be putting it out there. And all the money, all the proceeds is going to go directly to him to try and help him in this hard moment. But I'm saying that to say that if blockchain didn't exist, if NFTs didn't exist, the only thing I could do is maybe speak to him from Instagram or some other social media and say, I wish you the best,
Yeah,
right? Because it would be harder to do anything else. Like perhaps he doesn't have access to PayPal, perhaps he doesn't have access to his bank, so this is the only way that I can contribute without a middleman coming in and saying, I want a cut, I want this, I want that. So I think it's wonderful what you're saying, and I think it's a great opportunity for people who don't already know to look into these things and to see how we can help, the environment, how we can help problems with climate change, how we can help, these countries that, are less fortunate than perhaps where we are.
Yeah, it's we hired 2 people from Africa. We have a few. One is a refugee, and the other she's a Ugandese. She found a way to make the transaction, because it's not so easy yet. It's not so easy yet to pay him and to make him make a livelihood. He still needs me to make a transaction from my bank account to they have only one app they can use, something like PayPal, which is called World Remit, and from there he can cash out. So he can't use yet the Binance Visa because he doesn't have an identity, so the refugee is not there yet, unfortunately. But he can of course on the internet open a wallet, have Bitcoin, and of course pay another refugee with that Bitcoin. And if that gets established and accepted as a local currency, of course, then they can just build their local economy,
Right.
They can.
Right.
It's not holding them, but he would have a trouble with cashing it out into dollars or whatever local currency he has.
Yeah.
That's still like holding the refugee. So
Yeah,
we're not.
That's a big problem, and also the way that perhaps changing chains or changing like one cryptocurrency to another can be very difficult sometimes if your token is not listed on this exchange but it's listed on that exchange, so you have to exchange this for another coin and then that coin to take it to the other exchange to then get the coin that you really want, or even sometimes, like you said, you can't even take the money out and turn it into fiat, so you're going to have the money but you're going to have no way of using it. And it's unfortunate, especially for countries that really need it. Like, let's take, for example, the instance of what happened in Canada. I don't know if you remember, but a while back, the president or the prime minister. Sorry, what'd you say?
With the truck drivers.
Exactly.
That were funded by crypto.
Exactly. Yeah. If like their bank accounts got frozen, right, for trying to protest in a peaceful protest. So if like they had cryptos and they didn't have their money in these centralized banks, then perhaps things would have been different.
Yeah. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. It's not like, they could have done it a bit differently because they were working through centralized exchanges. That's the thing, right? But if I recall correctly, right? That's how they were able to control it. Yeah, I don't know how. I'm pretty sure there's solutions. They will find a new solution to make sure that they can support certain actions that are civilly disobedient, but are necessary, right, to protect humans and their rights.
Right.
Come on, there's no government that can ever overarch. We should always find a new way. We should overthrow a government that is not protecting the rights of citizens.
So you mean every government?
I'm not. Excuse me.
I said, so you mean every government then?
Yeah, but that's. We should have that right, and I know that it's a completely different discussion, but civil disobedience is a very central thing in the internet evolution, right? To create a space where people can exchange, it started in the 90s to exchange free information, and now we evolved to to exchange currencies, without the oversight of a third party or a government, so peer-to-peer. So it's not a it's not a criminal organization. It is a human rights organization to protect against it, and that's something that I see very much present, in this space. There will always be a factor that I don't think can be underestimated, I think it helped us a lot in already the last 100 years of protecting human rights.
Yeah. So. Before we kind of close things off, as we're kind of running out of time, I would like to discuss a little bit about our partnership between DeFiAnts and RareCandy. So for anyone listening, watching, that hasn't heard or isn't aware, DeFiAnts actually bought our second ever investment slot into RareCandy through our system of NCO. So for anyone that doesn't know, NCO is NFT coin offering, and essentially it's like, investing into the company in a different way. By buying this NFT coin offering, you get a certain amount of RCDY, which is our coin, but it comes in an NFT package. So it essentially should be easier for somebody who's a crypto native to get into this investment. So yeah, DeFiAnts was the second ever one that invested in RareCandy, and I also know that our teams are working together to have some sort of partnership, and I just want to get in your 2 cents on this. Like, what exactly is happening? What is the partnership about?
Yeah. So clients always come to us mostly for hosting their token launch. We understand that RareCandy has built a successful MVP with a user base, and that was also their strategy to only open to token launch as soon as that was ready. When that will be, personally, I think in the next few months, but we are helping them to prepare their community into the launch of that token. And then of course, we usually take over, managing the community for them. So it's a combination of consultancy into eventually providing service as community management and any other sites, services that come with it.
Nice. And I think it's coming in at the right time, to be honest. Like, it seems that everything is happening now. Like, pretty soon we're going to be launching our new DApp. We've got the first 2 investments. You guys are now on board and we're partnered with this. So I hope that everything's going to go well. I can see all this playing a big role in the next few months of what's to come from RareCandy. So unless you have something else to plug or talk about, I think we probably round things off.
Yeah, it was absolutely a pleasure to dive with you into. I always discover new ways of seeing things, into what this space is evolving into, because it's quite a proportional monster,
Of course.
And where I'm so happy to work together. I think that was for us the most essential thing as the vision and the values that we have, that we can work with somebody like RareCandy. So it's a really pleasure, but it's also it's more like friends, it's this, you share this journey, and I'm very, very happy that we reached this momentum where also it seems like projects feel more comfortable launching around this kind of period. In market sentiment, even though RareCandy said that for them it's not so important, for them it was more important that their product is ready. There is a demand for NFTs, right, and art. That's what's going on there, and that's the most important. So even though it's important to attract investment money. It is not for speculation. I don't think that put the focus too much on the coin flippers, and that kind of marketing, which for me it's so much more easy to work in, it's so much more easy because you can be authentic. You have nothing to hide, you can just, it's like what you see is what you get. That's what RareCandy actually is. There's no bullshit, and yet it's so fucking hard to get there, it is hard because you need a movement, and a lot of people fake their movement.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. It was a breath of fresh air for me coming into RareCandy, seeing people that were really passionate about this and were genuine, and didn't pretend to be something that they're not. And we all just want the best for each other and the best for the organization itself. And we don't take partnerships lightly. So for us to partner, I know it's for us, it's a big deal. We don't want to partner with anyone who doesn't have the same beliefs that we do. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to partner and to grow together. It was truly a pleasure to meet you personally as well, and thank you for taking the time to be on the show. It means a lot to me. I just want to say, if anyone's watching, you can join our Discord if you want to learn more. It's going to be in the description. You can follow us on social media. I'm going to have your Instagram. I'm going to have Gino's Instagram and Twitter or anything else you want me to link below, as well as DeFiAnts. Again, Gino, thank you very much. Any last words?
No, I'm fine. That's it.
Right. Thank you so much, man. Take it easy. Bye, everyone.
Take it easy, man. Bye, everyone.